Last Weekend in Havana by Elizabeth Kaiser. She'd never told this story to anyone. As the plane rumbled down the runway, gaining speed, Helen felt a terror rise within her. Wheels faster and faster, now rising into the air, her life hurtling forward. There was nothing she could do to stop it. The man next to her, separated by an empty seat, glanced at her as the plane bumped through thick clouds. She knew what he saw. Her ringless hands composed on the book in her lap, a well-cut light tweed suit that fell just below her knees, a single strand of pearls around her neck, red lipstick, short, dark hair. Deep in a novel, distracting herself from this aluminum shell rising improbably through the sky. The man looked at her again, long enough to make a point. She kept her eyes fixed on the book, the page, each word. Light flickered outside the windows, then sunlight flashed into the cabin, and the stewardess announced passengers could unbuckle and roam the cabin. "That's better," the man said. His New York accent reminded her of Joe. She looked up at him and smiled. "I'm going to the lounge for a cocktail and a cigarette," he said. "Join me?" "Scotch and soda, thank you," Helen said, declining the pitcher of daiquiris the smiling stewardess offered. She'd rolled a little cart before them, a bowl of olives stuffed with pimento, cubes of pineapple speared with ham. He sat in the curve of the banquette, one arm stretched along the back. She sat across from him, her long legs crossed and tucked back. "Thanks, doll," he said as the stewardess handed him a martini. Those girls seemed so pleased with their job and outfits. How did they keep those jaunty caps from falling into passengers' laps? Helen hated wearing hats. They made her feel hot and constrained. The glass of scotch and soda felt good in her hand, cold and hot. Scotch fumes tingling her nose, ice cubes clinking. "What's a pretty girl like you doing traveling alone to the sin capital of the world?" She laughed lightly and took a healthy sip. "Meeting a boyfriend?" He winked. "No." "First time?" "I've been a couple of times. Weekends in Havana." "I'm back and forth all the time. I'm in sugar. A girl like you likes her sweets, but you don't know that sugar's big business." "I actually do know that," she laughed lightly. "Oh, smart lady. So what do you know about sugar?" I had a friend whose family was in chocolate. Not in Cuba, in New York." "I tell you, we're going like gangbusters." "I read the rebels were starting fires in the sugar plantations." "Oh, we've got a reader here. Well, let me tell you something, young lady. The U.S. government is backing sugar. Either way this thing goes, sugar's safe, and you can tell that to your friends in chocolate." She took another long sip of her scotch. "So what are you up to this weekend, doll? Meeting a boyfriend?" "No, I'm here for work, too." "No kidding." "I work at Life magazine." "Funny, you don't look like a war correspondent." She laughed and smiled. "I'm a researcher in the photo department." "So, career girl, what kind of research will you be doing?" He winked, with all the suggestion he could possibly inflect, as if she wanted to see sex shows and gamble away more than $1 on a spin of a roulette wheel. She had lousy luck. She raised her chin. "I'm picking up film to bring back to New York." "And getting out of New York in December. You are a smart girl." She rattled the ice in her glass. His eyes flashed to the glass, dread like steel inside her. "Hey, sweetie, how about another round here?" the man said to the smiling stewardess as she handed out menus. The instant she awoke, In the room Joe booked for her in El Nacional, her dread returned. Her head ached. Her body still felt the pulsing of the plane chugging through the cold, thin air. In the bathroom, she covered her hair with a shower cap, pulling it down over the fringed bangs of the pixie cut and pierced ears that had so shocked Joe's mother. Hot water and scented soap washed away the stink of scotch and cigarettes on her skin. She pulled a raincoat over the short-sleeved flowered sundress she and Aunt Mary bought at El Encanto last winter when they'd seen Eddie Fisher shopping for ties. She wrapped a silk scarf over her head and stuffed a half-empty pack of Pall Mall in her handbag. Before the mirror, standing straight, shoulders back, she put on large black sunglasses. In the waiting room, she kept on her sunglasses and raincoat, trying to quell the panic rising in her, avoiding looking at the other women, trying to look impassive, but she flinched when the nurse called her name. Lying on the examining table, there was a roaring in her ears that was coming from her brain. The table was moving, rising up and down and side to side, though she knew it really wasn't. "Please," she said to the nurse, "please give me something. No pain." The nurse stroked her arm once, a fragment of comfort, and stuck an IV into the blue-green vein on the back of Helen's hand. She tried to retreat into her mind, a place, the sun dancing on the aqua water at the beach at Santa Maria del Mar. Her body splayed, the doctor down there sticking something cold into her, and oh, the pain! If she could have prayed, she would have. Joe said he fell in love with her from the first moment he saw her. How was he to know she wasn't Jewish? "And when I heard your name, Helen." His mother's name was Helen. They looked good together, she and Joe. They both had large dark eyes and big cheekbones. He loved her nose. Helen had hated her nose all her life. It had made her a homely child. But somehow her face grew into it. Her nose had become aquiline, and she'd become beautiful. Not that she felt beautiful, but people started reacting to her. Men noticed her. Joe laughed about being spared the family schnoz and the nose jobs his mother, aunts, and sisters had. Generations of nose jobs, the ski slope, the bob, the Dr. Goldman. Joe's mother hated Helen before she even met her, and there was nothing Helen could do about it. Joe seemed to go along with everything his mother wanted. "It's just easier," he said. "I've never had a mother, and I don't need one now." Joe's mother was furious when he told her they were engaged. "My mother wants you to convert." "Convert? I've already left one religion I don't believe in." He came back from telling his mother Helen wouldn't convert. "My mother wants you to see a psychiatrist." "She wants me to see a shrink? I'm not the one with the Oedipal complex. Hey, that's not fair." So she went to her fiancé's mother's shrink. She would not lie on the couch. She sat, a silent man in a wood and leather chair behind her, like a judge. He didn't speak. She didn't speak. Middle of the second silent session, she stood up. "I wish you'd tell me what you want me to do." "What would you like to do?" "I'd like to leave." "What are you running away from?" "You." "No." She sat back down and was silent. "Did you drink alcohol today?" "I had a martini with lunch 4 hours ago." "Why do you drink?" because I want to be happy, to be what I'm supposed to be, happy, smiling, and fun. What is your first memory? I don't have one. My mother says you're stubborn, Joe said. She should know stubborn, Helen said. In the recovery room, it was over. Over. She drank a glass of water and tried not to throw up. When the nurse said she could go, Helen dressed again, pulling cotton panties over the fresh sanitary napkin clipped to the elastic belt around her waist. Flowered sundress, raincoat, pearls, scarf, sunglasses. She moved through El Nacional's lobby with its gold leaf, mirrors, and giant chandeliers. The man from the plane had left a message at the front desk. Dancing tonight at the Sans Souci. Let's rumba. Helen crumpled it. The maids had cleaned the room. Helen climbed under the sheets, the bed so comforting, sheets so white, pillows so soft. She rolled up into a ball and felt dead. I can't do it, Joe said. I can't break her heart. I have to marry a Jewish girl. Her heart? She didn't have to return the ring because he'd never given her one. The engagement evaporated. He got the letters from the doctors, made the arrangements. She came up with the cover story. Like any good cover story, it had to be real. Sunday, she met them at the Starlight Terrace bar. They'd slept and showered, were drinking scotch, and looking ready to eat the menu. You're a sight for sore eyes, the correspondent said. Let life buy you a drink. We've been up in the mountains with Castro for 2 weeks. We had to ride back down the cutbacks on donkeys. I'll never eat another malanga again, the photographer said. He wasn't a famous life photographer, just a guy with a camera, obsessed with the revolution. Matjes and wine sauce, then borscht, then Würstelfisch noodles, the photographer said to the waitress. Broiled sirloin, medium, extra big Idaho, and 2 orders of cream spinach, the correspondent said. And a shrimp cocktail and daiquiri for the sirloin, rare, Helen said. Once again, she was flying through the air, back to New York, to her office in Rockefeller Center, to the apartment she shared with a roommate in the village. In the seat next to her sat the package of film, the copy, and reporters' notebooks. Don't let this out of your sight, the correspondent said. It's an exclusive. Treat it like it's your baby. Flying back to her old life of work, weekly deadlines, late nights closing the magazine, parties and after-parties, back to her new, old life, wherever it was going. She never imagined that within the year she'd meet Henry, elope, and give birth to the first of her 4 daughters.
Last Weekend in Havana was read by Drama Desk's award-winning theater director, producer, and writer, Karen Carpenter.